Hi, everybody. I am Dana, also known as Hey Miss Parker, and I want to have a little discussion with many parents who are now faced with digital learning. So I hope that you are now relaxed, and at this time, I hope the kids are in bed. So I want to go over, I want to give you a couple of tips that may help you with this new thing called digital learning that we've been thrown in. It's not a new thing, but how we have such a strong emphasis on it because of this pandemic that we're facing. So I hope you relax now and you're in a quiet house and the kids are now in bed. I want to give you a couple of tips. But before I even start on tips, I want to commend you because this whole thing was thrown at you, and the school districts, the state, each state that we're living in, they were faced with the unknown, and everyone was learning how to do this or how to adjust. So I commend you, parents, for tackling it. I know for some of you it may be a very overwhelming experience, but what we have to keep in mind is the learning journey or the educational journey that your child is taking. It has to continue. So I commend you. So I hope these tips that I'm giving you would be helpful. So, tip number one is you need to be organized. Your child, when they're in school, they have a level of organization. Like, I give you an example: the lower grades, they might have little personal bins inside of their desk with their crayons, their pencils. Some of them have their scissors and anything glue sticks, whatever they use. Or some of the classes, they might have the pencil and the crayon, but then the scissors and um, the glue, whatever else they need, they know where to locate it in the classroom. So now that they're home, organization is very important, and it would help in the process of them learning. So I would advise for you to get like a shoebox or a container, a little bag, something that would have all the items that they need at one spot. We have to be mindful with, especially with the lower grade kids, that sometimes they might have the crayons for their day or for their lesson, and that same crayons they might take upstairs inside of their room, so the next day when you're doing your lesson and they might need the crayons or something for an activity, they might not know where it is. So organization, or them being organized, is very important. So again, I suggest that you get a container, a shoebox, something where keep all the items that they need. If you're printing out homework worksheets, or if you have a workbook, whatever they need to have a smooth transition into their work, that it be accessible to them. Also, a schedule. um, our kids, our students, they work by schedule, as you know. So I would suggest, for no matter what grade level your child is in, to have schedules. We have children, um, several kids. Children is a group of several. But if you have more than one child in different grade levels, I would suggest that they all put a schedule. You have a schedule up. For kindergartners, all of them, I would suggest that you have them write down or create. If you have construction paper or something where you could just have them bedazzle it up and make it a little cute, however, whatever works for you, but allowing them to have a visual schedule. So in the morning time, breakfast, so they can see what time is it. It's this time. What are you supposed to be doing? Go look at your schedule. Oh, I'm eating breakfast now. Okay, then after breakfast, you go into however you need to structure your day according to your teacher and her Zoom or her Schoology lessons or whatever it is, to have a visual schedule so the kids could see. So, I mean, it lessens the chaos inside of the family. Also, I want to mention time. Do I expect you to have your kids in doing schoolwork 4 hours straight? Every home is different. But what I would suggest is if you have multiple children in different grade levels, that they all do their schoolwork at the same time. So if you have them doing from 9 to 11, whatever your time is, or whatever length of hours, or how many hours you're going to have it do it, let all of the children do it at the same time, because what you don't want to have happen is you have your, let's say, your middle schooler doing their schoolwork from 9 to 11, or then if they're just sitting down quietly at a spot doing their schoolwork, and then you have the high schooler or the elementary student just doing, running around the house. I would prefer if they could do all the schoolwork at around the same time, so you won't have a whole bunch of noise going on in the background, and that works, good. If you have specific times that you have, like let's say the high schooler has to go on at 11 o'clock, and then the other one, the middle school, have to be on with their teacher at 2 o'clock. I understand that in that case, but even in that case, I'm going to go to the next tip, and that is to have a quiet spot for your kids. A quiet spot is necessary. Sometimes, when you're looking over some of the lessons that some of the teachers are doing, especially with the younger kids, there's a lot of activity because they're home. They're in their place of safety and comfort. So sometimes when a lesson is going on, they could be playing with a doll or playing with a particular toy or a favorite toy. Remember, this is instructional time that is very important. So any distractions, please take it away. No dolls, no television turned on, anything that distracts them. They need that quiet time, because it's, kids, they know that that's not going on in the classroom. And so in this instructional time, or they're in their home, they have to be focused and quiet, in a quiet place. So a quiet place is necessary. And again, the multiple kids, if you have multiple kids and the lesson is going on all at the same time, I suggest that they all be within your eyesight, where you could see them not far away. One kid could be in the living room, another kid could be in the dining room, another kid could be in the family room, but spread out in the way where you could keep an eye on them. Because it's any kid. I'm talking about even our kindergartners. They would, they supposed to be on Odyssey or some teaching program, and the next thing they still on some kind of way they found themselves on YouTube, watching some Barbie something, or some boys watching some boy related something, game or activity they're doing. So keep the kids within eyesight where you could walk past and see and make sure they're on task. I want to talk about breaks. Our kids, they take breaks. They have what we sometimes call brain breaks, or if it's not a brain break, might be they do several activities or so, and then they take a brain break. So you could go on YouTube and you could look up, or you could open up your own account called Go Noodles, or you could go on YouTube and do indoor recess or brain break. The brain break is usually an activity where they have a lot of movements or something to relax them, different types of things. So make sure that you give them a brain break. Now, a brain break may last maybe 5 minutes or so. So I know they're at home, but don't allow the break to be so long that they lose sight of what they're doing, or it pulls them out of a teaching mode where you're able to teach them, and you got them so high and jumping around for 2 hours that when it's time for them to come back and do a lesson or something or sit down, they're too wired. So the brain break is a short break, maybe 5 minutes, or if you don't want to give them a brain break, you give them a snack or so. But remember that through it all, and not to stress you out so much and overwork them, to allow them to get a brain break. Let's talk about the learning process. One thing I have to say, that teachers or educators or school systems are not talking about we're doing the best that we could possibly do with digital learning, but this is a new thing across the country to constantly give all this information to kids from K to 12. So again, I commend you for the job that you're doing. And one thing I want to make mention is the first educational experience starts at home. So by the time you passed off your child to us from kindergarten, whatever, they should have come with information or the things that you've taught them, or they have a sense of how much or what goes on inside of the house. Okay, I thought my thing cut off. So at an early age, like in kindergarten, we could tell when there's a lot of learning or instruction that goes on at home, or discussion, and families working with them with little workbooks, teach them colors and stuff. Then we have some kids that they can't even hold a pencil inside of their hand. So we understand that the teaching experience, it starts at home. So with the learning process, and now we're passing it back off to you to be the central or the main teacher. What school districts are not talking about is the length of time and the time that's dedicated, or whatever time that you could give to your child's learning process each day. You have to stay on task. You have to ensure that your child is learning, and the school system, they're giving you all the support they could. I know school districts that gave out Chromebooks. They have all Schoology. They have these programs, because remember, these kids, if you don't work with them daily, they are falling behind and they'll be less prepared for the next grade. So if you have a second grader, let's say, you have to get that information. It's now your job. The school system is supporting you and giving you as much as they could possibly give, but it's really in your hands now to get your child, to ensure that your child would successfully transition to the next grade. I know some parents, they just love being that teacher now. Oh, and they're working with their kids hours at a time, and they're making sure that their children is keeping up or even surpassing exceeding the expectation for that grade level. And then we have to the other extreme, parents who are not doing a thing with their child. And that case, the only thing that you're doing is really, the child, when they go into the next grade, they're going to be struggling. So yes, we've passed the torch to you to be the central figure, educational or person, you know what I'm saying, that teacher. We're passing that to you because we could give you but so much information, and the information that we give you, if you don't utilize it, your child is just going to fall behind, and it's going to be even more of a struggle. So that learning, what they're doing now, what you're giving them, that is very important. Can you do 4 or 5 hours? Probably not, because you got a whole lot. You got your own life. You got to keep up with your own work. If you're working at home, you have several children that you have to deal with and sit with. Yeah, so it might not be, but whatever time that you put in, it has to be effective. So again, you have to be organized, remove those distractions, because the toys will be there when the learning experience is over for the day, or the instructional period is over for the day. The toy, they could get back to it. So whatever time, how many hours, whatever, it has to be effective. I would encourage you to utilize YouTube. If it's sight words, go on YouTube and have them singing the songs or going over the sight words. If it's the phonics, whatever it is, what grade level, if it's for the higher grades, if it's a science something on the internet, utilize the internet. That's why so many school systems across the country is giving the children their Chromebooks. Another thing I want to make mention of, since I'm thinking about this, I know our phones now. They're like small computers, but it's not a computer. So it's important now. I think in a lot of homes they don't have laptops and desktops. Those things are still vital today in the learning process because that's what they use to test on. Paper and pencil, we don't do that anymore. So especially with the younger kids, like in kindergarten, it's important for them to, when they're using the computer, for them to use a mouse because that's how they test. The older kids, they have their Chromebooks and they could use the little pad thing to move. But in the school system, we still use the mouse for our lower grade ones, especially. So it's important for you to have those tools, things accessible for the kids. So, I just wanted to give, I think I went over a few things that I wanted to do. Like I said, it's not easy, but we have to remember the importance of the educational experience that our kids still have to encounter or they have to have between now and the end of the school year. So I hope this encouraged you. If you need some more information, reach out to your school, your teacher, they're there, but if anything, I want you to walk away with that each day they must be doing work. I think by now, some of you parents who are doing a marvelous job and working with your kid. One thing I would also suggest is like an assessment, because that's what we do in school. An assessment is like, let's say, the reading. When it's something, a reading assignment, or they're reading to you and you're seeing them, they're stumbling a lot. I want you to take note of that. Certain things I want you to take note of. And then you could talk it over with your teacher. Well, I notice when my child, there's a lot of stop, there's a lot of pauses. That's something concerning fluency. But those type of simple assessments is seeing what your kid is picking up on and what they're not. Some kids could do awesome with numbers and math, but then they'll struggle with phonics or another subject area. So it's okay if you notice something. Now you're the main teacher now. It's okay to discuss it with your teacher. Okay, we don't mind having a parent teacher or teacher a teacher conference, with you to discuss something. So I hope these points, they were able to help you. I think I went over being organized, your schedule, making sure that you have all the items that you need, a quiet spot. About if you have multiple kids, to spread them all over the house, but within sight where you could get, with them, and make sure you give yourself a break. Having them go to sleep before you is like 9 o'clock. If that's the time that you put your kids to bed. If you put them up to 8 o'clock, by 9 o'clock, they're asleep and you have that quiet time for yourself. We don't want you to get overwhelmed. But also, if you do feel yourself getting overwhelmed, we also have our school counselors that's there, and we still have our parent coordinators that's there, to help you, because the community is behind you. And we once again, we thank you for, us having to pass the torch to you, and we are the ones that's supporting you, but you are the one that has to implement your child's educational experience or your child's instructional time. Thank you so much. You have a wonderful night. Bye-bye.